This was supposed to be an easy restore with slight mods. In theory, modifying a pontoon boat should be way easier, so I don't quite understand why it went south. I think it started when I took off the gates. That was the beginning of the end. Then there were the ideas, the light bars, the frame, the ability to create a multi-use pontoon boat that can handle any scenario for anyone. That became the obsession. Once I see it, I can't unsee it. Sometimes the ideas you have might be a little too much, and you pay for it. Hey guys, as this channel has progressed over the years, so have I had to do the same. And it was inevitable to eventually have to start welding. It started out first with trailers with simple flux core and steel, all the way to more advanced projects like this, which required a pretty serious welder to do all that aluminum. And the road to learning how to weld aluminum was a little rough at the beginning, but what if I told you there is a welder that does what this one does for a fraction of the price, and it would have been the perfect welder for me to have started out with, and the perfect welder for you to start welding if you are interested in it, but you're just kind of on the fence. It's a DP200 from Yes Welder. It is a double pulse MIG welder with an array of advanced settings and features. It comes with a spool gun and a MIG gun. It's meant for 045 wire to run straight through the MIG, which is kind of the best way in my opinion, because that's what I use to weld all these projects, because using a spool gun is bulky and won't fit in all those places. The pulse feature makes it so much easier to learn, and it's one of the best ways to weld aluminum aside from TIGging. I'm going to be running an entire series on this welder pretty soon. If you'd like to check it out firsthand, click my promo code below. It'll take you right to it. You can get 10% off. It's been a year since I touched this boat. Everything you saw in the intro was me right before I kind of just gave out. Like, I started getting really bad tinnitus, I got that strap on my arm. But it wasn't just my body giving out, it was my brain. Like, once it had really grasped what a project we took on and all the work we made for ourselves, we turned a very simple project into something terribly complicated. I kind of got overwhelmed and just kind of shut down, focused on literally anything else. I went on to other projects that were more doable, but in the back of my mind, this bothered me a lot. It ultimately took a toll. My wife tried to go buy a pontoon boat because she was tired of waiting for me to build this one. That was like it. This is the kind of the wall design that I came up with, and this is really all that these had to be after I figured out that the 1/8" wall on the outside is what was really needed. I couldn't get away with the 16" wall, so this one has substantially less under supports because it doesn't need them. The 1/8" wall is thick. You need at least a 6" depth, which is what this is, because with just the outside, this thing would wobble no matter what you do. So you needed something to stiffen it up. Now, the cheap side gates that are on all pontoon boats, that's all supported by furniture, so it'll never move. But this stuff, once everything's attached to the wall, it won't move at all. But right now, standalone with those channels in there, it is very strong. And it gives me that 6" wide top. Now, that is a huge strategy of mine in this boat to get a whole lot of activities and extra things out of it. Without it, I don't know. We have a cut table under here. If you guys don't know this little trick, just a 5/8 3/4" piece of plywood, 2x4 is laying it underneath to make it a solid table. And when you cut with a circular saw into this, the shavings just get trapped into the table and they do not fly all over your garage like they normally would. It does even a better job than a vacuum attached to it. I think this might be an actual aluminum blade. No, it's a cermet. So these are cermet carbide blades. If you're ever wondering what blade cuts metal, like aluminum specifically, I like the cermet carbide blades. And they also have specific ones for aluminum. How much time it is to put it through a lot of abuse. It's cut a lot of sheets, so I don't know how much more it's got on it, but we're gonna try and run it through this. This is 1/8" thick wall. We did try 1/16, didn't work out like I had wanted. We're also using cutting oil, and that will extend the life of the blade. And now see how there was pretty much almost no mess until the very end right here where we finally got some, but everything else is clean. No metal shavings hardly anywhere. Just barely a little bit here, very easy to clean up. Working out here in the outside with the wind is just miserable to try and weld aluminum. So in the daytime, there was just a lot of sheet metal work and some rivets. And then later on, the wind would normally die down at night and I could have my moments to kind of tie it all together. It became very obvious that we would have to put a third tune in this boat after everything we put in there, because all that sheet metal and all that framing is a lot of weight. It's probably an estimated 400 pounds just in the front of the boat itself. I tried to get around that weight by using 16 gauge for everything, but it just isn't going to work out on a boat this big. All the wiring in the boat was junk. It was never going to be used and had to be traced and pulled out. And this console, I really wanted to keep it, but it's just not going to flow with the design at all, so it has to go. In my opinion, any sort of console needs to be conservative in a utilitarian style boat. Now, a pleasure boat where all you just want to feel like a king sitting in the throne, then maybe some gigantic console like that with a really comfortable chair is a thing. But this boat, people are going to be moving around, actively seeking and hunting and casting or shooting a bow. And there's just, the console just needs to be as small and sleek and minimalistic as it can possibly be. But making one out of aluminum from scratch, you can do it a few ways. I have just barely enough DIY skill to pull one off. I've done it like this before. It was a major pain in the you-know-what, and there's way better ways to do this. But until I sit down and take the time to learn how to TIG, this is about as good as it's gonna get. I'm running a pulse MIG, so it's about the second best welder. They have double pulse MIGs like the one I'm previewing for this video. That Yes Welder has a double pulse feature. So if you really want pretty welds and you get good at it, you won't have to go through all the pain that I'm doing right now. I'm essentially going to have to lay a series of really good welds underneath that are nice and thick and strong that are going to be hidden, and then just weld the top of it so much that all the seams are covered with a thick copious amount of bead. Then you grind that off, and you obviously got to take care of any spots that where there's pits or anything. Once that's done, you can just orbital sand the whole thing, and you have a nice strong solid console that's going to last the life of your boat. So the other console, considering that it was made out of wood and some cheap like leather, it was a pretty good investment just to sit down here and make one out from scratch. I'm not going to finish this console until later, but I needed the bulk of it done simply for vision and perspective so I can move this project along. There's just bits and pieces that were missing that if they're there, then I can see the full view coming, and then I can just go for it. Hey guys, if you've been in the video for this long, it means you must have liked something, so go ahead and drop a like with this video, comment if you want, sharing will be great, and if you want, also subscribe and check us out on our other platforms. And if you have time, check out our podcast. It's called The Drain Plug. I voted for the boat haul, but they voted against it. Generally, it's Chris and Ryan, me on occasion, and special guests. Pretty cool. We talk about topics you guys all want to hear. So since I'm putting all this work into this boat, I wanted to do something special for the exterior. I decided to get it wrapped, but in order for it to get wrapped and nothing show through, the outside has to be perfect. And so there was a lot of rewelding and refinishing all the seams, and doing it on the outside stank so bad. It was really kind of terrible. There was at points where even at the night it was still windy, and I had to put a weld blanket over me and like a mask so you didn't inhale the aluminum fumes. It's terribly toxic. It's a fiberglass cloth, so parts of fiberglass kind of got on you. It was, it was not great, but it was what you had to do. I did rent a storage unit, and I thought about running a generator out of that and just going and working out of it. Then I thought, what a pain that would be. I think I will take it to a storage unit specifically for the rigging and the turfing. But right now I'm just trying to get everything done on the exterior and then get it to paint, let it cure. That way I can get it to the wrap on time. The refinishing work killed me. Like, I went through a tire giant spool of aluminum trying to pull off all this. I'm on my second argon tank. I just like X amount of 36 and 40 grit sanding disc for these grinders. I have the corded one because the battery ones just keep running out. So much work that I didn't think was going to be that hard, but ended up being terrible. One problem I have is where to put the electric. Now, I always wanted to kind of do a vertical box only to access all the fuse blocks and any essential things like cutoff switches or breakers, whatever. I would like them in one central area that is easy to access. I don't have to take off anything or bend down and get underneath. If a fuse blows, I have instant access to it right there. I put vertical recess boxes in the sidewalls of my tiller style boats. I'm a huge fan of how that turns out. In fact, I think it's the greatest way to do it. It's just, those are generally horizontal because of the layout. This will be completely vertical, but still serve the same purpose. And as for the door, man, I'm tired of getting in and out of that boat. It's starting to really wear on me. And so the amount of measurements and checking and rechecking, I didn't even want to think to do it. So I just straight up made the door right there with tools. I'll smooth out the details later. That'll be easy. The harder thing to pull off, but we have to do it right now because we cannot finish the rear exterior until this is done, is finally make the canopy. It's going to kind of be a hybrid style between a T-top style ceiling and those like wakeboard tower style pillars that form into a tower to tow like tubes and wakeboards, but then they also fold out into a bimini top. Well, there ain't no bimini top. I think the T-top personally is better than the bimini. So we're going to just combine the two ideas together. Now I was able to find a 9-foot like T-top canvas. Like on Amazon, I bought quite a few of them just for like having spares, and I just made the top to suit that canvas, which ended up being exactly almost to the T the amount of space between the walls on this boat. And I did that on accident. It just happened to work out perfectly that way. I was thinking I was gonna have to manipulate and bend those pillars this way and that way, but I ended up not really having to do much of anything at all to them. They almost seamlessly mounted to the top. Now it was just a matter of forming out the rest. Now, standalone, with just the single pillar, that was pretty strong, I will admit, with nothing else holding onto those walls. Probably could have just got away with that, but I wanted this crazy looking design. You ever seen the Pavati wake boats? They have the craziest looking tower ever, the most elegant design out of anything. They're not very efficient because they're aluminum, but they make the best looking wake boat out there. This isn't all about aesthetics though, it's about function. I just like the way the tower is because it's just one pillar. It's not a whole bunch of different tubes going this way and that way from front to back, which make it impossible to cast a rod or just get down there. That it can't be happening when you're trying to bow fish or even regular fish. The T-top style canopy is like the most conservative I can think of, which is why it's so popular along the coasts. But there are some things I didn't get to in this video. For one, the rod locker. It deserves its own entire video because it in and of itself was a monstrous chore to pull off. We're also going to show you how to template your decks. If you buy our hatches like this and you want to get exact perfect cuts of the 090 aluminum right around them, then you would use this stuff called Graphics Duralar. Cut the sections for the hinges out, that way it lays completely flat. Then go ahead and put a ruler over it, trace all the edges, go lay it on the sheet metal and trace it. And once you're done, it completely lays out into a perfect sheet, but we'll be showing you that in the next video. Also, these benches are not going to just be for utilitarian function. We are going to be able to put cushions on them. I got these cushions custom made from a vendor on Amazon. I just bought one from him to see how it would go. I liked it so much that I bought like 3 more. It was expensive to get them to fit this whole bench, but it's 10 feet of awesomeness. Plus back cushions, I got them at 2 inches thick. They're super easy to roll and stow away in one of the compartments and make it a compartment specifically for all those things. We'll be talking about the Plash lights, epic flounder lights, which are going to be used for bow fishing, and how we're going to power those lights plus the monstrous amounts of LEDs we're going to be pushing in. Pretty much, these are 460 amp hour, 12 volt lithium batteries, and we'll have 2 of them. 900 plus amp hours total to run the entire boat. It's how we will avoid using a generator. They will also get their own video because the project and the things they're going to be doing is going to be too epic just to kind of bunch into. There's going to be a lot of cool videos in this series. I can't wait to show you all the features of these batteries. 460 amp hours a piece, digital readouts, Bluetooth readouts, completely waterproof, heating cell technology, you name it, they're in that battery. Also, Railblaza has the most unique add-ons for any marine vehicle, from kayaks all the way to large boats. The mount I want is similar to that one in the middle, just not that one exact, but I do want to mount them all along those 6-inch gunnels everywhere so I can have the max experience, from fishing rods to cup holders to anything I want. You just got to tune in and see how the whole thing turns out. See you in the next one.